and let us all do we can to build a better future.
So, Kira, you got a story for the people.
So, if you donate in the link below for the super chat, it'll work now.
Good. All right. Awesome. So, Kira, you got a story for people. What is going on?
I just said I went grocery shopping. Okay.
It's a new activity.
Yeah, it is. I got meat sticks, which I'm very excited about.
Wait, okay, now you've piqued my interest.
We'll talk about it on the Patreon show.
All right. So, tax loophole. Another one. Okay. So corporate and establishment media and the elites might have you believing that there is no money for social safety nets. I don't know if you've heard, things like the Build Back Better bill, universal health care, education, but they're lying to you. And I think we all know that. So I've covered extensively on past Heartlands Media episodes and my show back in 2020 called Corporations Behaving Badly, just how the rich and corporations keep their wealth and avoid paying into our system so that they can have nice things. So that we can have nice things, rather. But there are about 1 million ways to skin a cat. So here's just another egregious example of steps that could be taken to increase revenue to fund our government. So do you guys remember the carried interest loophole that hedge fund executives and private equity managers among the wealthiest people in America pay a tax rate no higher than most Americans? It's a total scam. They get the tax break even though they invest other people's money instead of risking their own. This has been going on for quite a while, and Barack Obama did nothing about it. Donald Trump did nothing about it.
Of course.
So nothing has happened. And now, it's so funny. There's a quote in this report from Larry Kudlow saying, I don't know what happened. I don't know how this thing survived. Now that Democrats are trying to find ways to finance President Biden's Build Back Better package, it would make sense that this carried interest loophole would be high on their list. After all, closing it would save $180 billion over a 10-year span. So let me tell you a little bit about what the carried interest loophole is. Private equity firms borrow money to buy companies they see as ripe for turnarounds. So basically, they cut wages, they outsource jobs, they strip assets, and they resell what's left over. I think we talked about this like a few weeks back. And they're often laden with tons of debt. And then the firms don't risk any of their own capital to do that. What they do instead is they have investors pay a management fee of 2% so that they can do that acquisition, then strip that acquisition down for all of its assets, basically the cheapest possible labor, lay off everybody that they possibly can. And then once they sell that acquisition, they keep 20% of the profits. That amount of money is known as carried interest. So they don't invest any of their own money. They're not actually risking anything, and they're not actually building anything.
Can you imagine if we got a tax break based off of the taxes paid of everyone that watches the show, or you got a tax break based on all the clients you have in your gym?
Yeah, I mean, it would, and here's how big the tax break is. Basically, I keep freaking for my brain, my short-term memory is awful. The carried interest loophole here, they max out at 20%. And so, income tax, it goes up to 37%. It goes to 11. It goes to 37%. And so these folks never have to actually worry about getting taxed on, more than 20% on this carried interest. And so the other piece that I want to iterate is that the people who do this sort of thing are some of the wealthiest people in America.
Oh, wow.
And so they're skirting all these taxes. They're doing things that don't actually build anything. In fact, it takes jobs, it breaks down companies, breaks their backs, and then they get a huge payout, not only from the actual acquisition and sale, but then in tax breaks as well. So anyway, influential Democrats such as House Ways and Means Committee Chair Richard Neal argue that closing the loophole would hobble private equity and by extension, the U.S. economy. So I went to opensecrets.org to see how much Richard Neal received in campaign contributions from the financial sector. And in 2021 alone, he received $74,500. So seems like that should be illegal considering he's the leader of the House and Ways Committee. Is he the leader or just part of it? Chair, yeah. So Robert Wright goes on in the article that I'm pulling this from to explain that the sole reason the loophole survives even during a Democratic Congress is lobbying by private equity industry and the dependence of too many Democrats on campaign funding from. Like, we already know all this. So last year, 4,108 individual lobbyists formally registered to lobby Congress and the executive branch on taxes, according to Open Secrets, which means there are more lobbyists than members of Congress, like by almost tenfold.
That sounds about right. I mean, it's I think that's, what is that? Isn't that the ratio of the number of parasites to the number of non-parasites? Or am I thinking of something else?
Yeah. Oh, really? Is that so? Whoa, that's interesting.
Well, what more can you expect from Washington D.C.? It's nothing
nature.
but it's nothing but a swamp.
Nature.
It's nothing but a swamp. And of course, there's going to be parasitic creatures, most notably the lobby groups and the special interest groups that feed off of our hard work, and more importantly, too, our lawmakers, who are just thoroughly corrupted and enjoy the parasitic relationship that they have with the lawmakers. It just gets
more and more like even though I've known this for years and years and years, every time I look at it and read a new story and go to Open Secrets and do more research, I'm still constantly floored that this is the way our government runs. It's crazy. The private equity industry has spent over $600 million in the past decade. Biden was the top recipient of that campaign money from that industry in the last campaign cycle. All told, nearly 60% of campaign donations from those in private equity during 2020 went toward Democratic candidates for federal office. And that was to the tune of about $3 million.
And remember, what did we say before about mainstream? This is this beautiful cycle they've created. Ready? So who are the people that are on mainstream media? It's, again, politicians that are no longer in office waiting for a turn to get back in. They want to remain competitive. They want to remain relevant. The failed children of the ultra rich and ultra wealthy, the super politically connected family kids, and a big one is Democratic or just strategists. Why pick strategists like that? Well, if you're a strategist and you're given relevance and connections and power through your access to television news, well, when it's your turn to run an election and you have a candidate that you're running with, remember, these guys get paid a percentage of the ad sales that they make through TV. So they get a cut immediately selling to TV. Now, what channel do you think they're going to send all that money to? Oh, maybe the one that kept them on TV in between election cycles. It's the cycle. It's how the money works. It's how power is maintained. It's how corporate media keeps its power and how it's connected. They're all the same. It's just the big system.
Yeah, and then just so that I can tattle a little bit more, because that's what I always feel like I'm doing when I'm like, all right, Open Secrets, let's go. So our buddy, Chucky Schumer.
Chucky Boy Schumer.
That's right. Was among those who argued against closing this loophole because he is, he loves the American people so much. He said the United States should not do anything to make it easier for capital and ideas to flow to London or anywhere else.
You mean the place that already has the things we're talking about?
So, going to Open Secrets again, Chuck Schumer has received from the financial sector, hold on to your hats, $4,584,136 in the last 4 years.
Man, it's like Chuck Schumer's like,
wow.
Man, the financial services industry is really important. We don't want to lose it. And they paid me a lot of money to say that.
This is the Democratic Party, my friends. This is who they are. They've always been corrupt. But Bernie, remember, Bernie Sanders, remember you said a lot of your fellow colleagues are your good friends, right? Like people like Biden and Chucky Boy, all of them.
They're all crooks.
They're all your friends.
I like insider traders. I just don't think they should exist.
Yeah,
It's not a good Bernie.
yeah, that was a terrible Bernie Sanders impression.
It's like a muted, it's like a muted Trump. It's like Trump if he relaxed.
Yeah, it's why I'm not going to support the Democratic Party. And look, if you're a Democratic progressive and you want to be on our show, we're going to interview you, have you on our show, and you're running for office. First thing I'm going to ask you is, so when are you going to sell out?
Well, and what's going to keep you from selling out? That's really the question, because I look at these folks who were brought in to, take care of this, clean up Congress, all this stuff. And when they were running and I was watching them run, I was like, hot damn, these people are bold. These people say really strong things, like this is going to be great. And then they get in there and it's like they're suddenly sheep.
Yeah, like
and,
quiet.
And it's like, so what's going to keep you from really stepping up? I mean, death threats, which would eventually come.
All the money you get from being in Congress.
All the money you get.
All the insider
career.
trading you could possibly do.
Gold-plated healthcare.
And by the way, if we did actually work out a question where you are going to ask all Democratic representatives that come on the show.
We're going to keep that hush.
Well, it's because I don't want to give the tone that we're just going to walk in and go, hey, why are you punching yourself and kicking kids? Which is not how we conduct ourselves, as you know, in interviews. We don't want to put off that view. We want to make sure we don't. But we are going to ask very tough questions.
So
we have a good one.
Well, and any candidate that's worth anything wants the tough questions and prepares for the tough questions.
But sadly, a lot of
few and far between.
But here's the thing: what we found out too is that when the progressive lawmakers are elected in office, they don't show back up on independent media. They like to show up on as candidates, but then they just quietly disappear in the ether in the background.
That'd be a great question. If you get elected, will you pledge to still go on internet media?
Yeah, that's.
That is a good question.
That is a good question right there. See, there you go. We don't want to give too much away though.
Well, we're not giving anything away.
There you go. And once
it's just framing and saying it in the right way.
There you
That
go.
they can't go, you're being mean, and we're like, no, we're answering it. It's a good question.